One of my favorite games of the entire generation is Moon Studios' Ori and the Blind Forest. And I have been looking forward to the sequel, Ori and the Will of the Wisps, since they announced it in 2017, dreaming of the day that I would finally be able to play it. And that day is now finally upon us. I finished Ori and the Will of the Wisps, beat it in 13 hours. And I know you guys have a lot of questions. What's changed? What's new? Is it better than the first one? And the answer to that question is, oh yes. It's a masterpiece, but it has one fatal flaw. Let's get into it, shall we? What's going on, guys? Randall419, the man with the million, back again with another review, and I am so happy to be reviewing Ori and the Will of the Wisps today. I gotta give a big shout out to Xbox for sending over the review code. And you guys, if you could do me a big favor, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it. Ori and the Will of the Wisps has a lot to live up for. In my opinion, the first game was the best Xbox game of this entire generation, and could it live up to the pedigree of that hype for me? Well, yes, it does. In my opinion, Ori and the Will of the Wisps is better than Ori and the Blind Forest in every way. It looks better. The music is incredible. The story is more emotional. It actually has combat and a whole bunch of other things we're going to delve into right now. This is a true sequel jump. Think Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, or perhaps Mario Brothers to Mario Brothers 3. So yeah, I'm going to be heaping a ton of praise onto the game, but I'll explain later how the game has a fatal flaw, a big problem, and how that's going to affect my review score. But Ori and the Will of the Wisps, if you don't know, is a Metroidvania exploration platformer. Everything that you loved from Ori 1 is back and better than ever. And maybe one of the best things about this game is how you move across the map. The movement abilities you get, the momentum that you can have, makes it so that in my 15 hours of playing through the game, it never was boring to get from one side of the map to the other, using double jump and buying triple jump, using bash, and a lasso allows you to get across sections of the map really easily, really quickly, and most importantly, in a very fun manner. The platforming is Ori's heart. It's what makes it special in the genre of Metroidvanias. There is no other game like this that does platforming this good. But then you look at how the game presents itself. The hand-drawn animations and color. This is one of, if not the most beautiful games I have ever had the fortune of playing. I have an LG OLED B8, and playing this game in 4K HDR on that TV is godly. And while you're enjoying those stunning visuals, you'll be hearing Gareth Coker's amazing musical score in your headphones. And I didn't even think he would be able to top his score from Ori 1, but he easily eclipses it here in the sequel. Every note, it's pitch perfect, and every time you move to a new area, it invokes a new emotion. For instance, when you're in a dark, cavernous area without any light, the musical score is very ominous, very creeping. But if you're in an area that is brightly lit and on a beach, it's definitely more upbeat. As for the story, it takes place immediately after the events of Ori 1, although you don't need to play the game to understand what's going on here, although you would have a deeper appreciation of the franchise. And honestly, if you haven't played Ori 1, you should do that immediately before this game anyways. So basically, Ori and your owl friend, they go on an adventure in a different land, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to spoil it. You should be able to experience the game for yourself. I will just say that I thought the story in this game was much better. It's more mature, and it's definitely a lot more emotional than the first one was. And you know, Moon Studio could have easily just have made Ori 1.5. The game is a masterpiece in the platforming genre. They could have just recreated it and had a hit on their hands, but they weren't satisfied. They wanted to take that next leap, so they added a lot more things to Ori 2. The biggest change being combat. Now, if you remember in Ori 1, you basically had a light that followed you around that would auto-attack enemies for you while pressing X. Well, in this game, that's completely gone. you actually have many different weapons in Ori 2. You have a sword, hammer, bow and arrow, a spear, a throwing star, and a bunch of other abilities that you can equip at any point in time on X, Y, or B. And honestly, the combat is so good. It feels great. Now, don't get me wrong. It's suddenly not Devil May Cry. You won't be performing like 10-hit combos during the game, but it works. The hammer has weight to it. The sword is really fast. It feels good to pick that spear up and chuck it at an enemy and watch them die. So the combat elevates the game to the next level. In Ori 1, you didn't have any boss fights. What you had instead were the spectacular escape sequences, which basically saw you use all your platforming skills in a split-second manner to outrun death. Well, they return here bigger and better than before, but in addition to those incredibly cool escape sequences, you actually now have some huge boss fights, which I thought were pretty well done and visually impressive. I don't know, man, but there was certainly something really cool seeing small Ori go up against these huge monsters and have to use all of her platforming abilities to be able to get in a strike here and there until she beats them. Really cool stuff there. And considering this is a Metroidvania, there is tons of secrets to find if you want to 100% the whole map. There's nooks and crannies everywhere where you can find spirit energy, which is basically currency you can trade to vendors to upgrade your abilities. Like if you want to give your hammer ground shockwave, you can do that. You can buy upgrades for shards, which I'll explain in a minute. You can find more health cells. You start the game off with 3, but you can increase it all the way to 20. The same thing with magic, which lets you use different abilities like your spear and your bow and arrow. But new to Ori 2 are shards, which are things that you can find in the world, little collectibles that you can equip that give you a certain passive ability. You start the game with 3 slots, but every time you complete a combat shrine, you get a new slot all the way up to the total of 7. And it's pretty interesting because you can mix and match different playstyles. For instance, there is a shard that basically lets you take less damage. And there is another shard that lets you deal more damage, but you take more damage. There's a shard for triple jumping. There's so many shards, and you can upgrade all of those to different levels. So it basically allows you to play the way that you want to. Another cool thing that Moon Studios put in their game to help with the world building and the lore is all the NPC characters that you can talk to. Some will sell you combat abilities and weapons, some will sell you shards, others will ask you to get things for them, give you side quests, which you'll get rewarded for if you find it for them. And then eventually it kind of all culminates in this new community that you're building. A bunch of these smaller characters that you'll meet throughout the game, when you talk to them, they want a new place to live. And if you go around and find the ores scattered about and give it to a builder, he can create new improvements and new buildings for all the characters that you've met. I like it. It's a pretty cool touch. And when you actually build up the entire community, it's pretty cool to come back and see how it's grown from the start of the game to how it ends later on in the game. Another new thing to Ori 2 are these spirit trials. Basically, there's 8 races, 8 courses that you can run against the developers' times or any of your friends' times, and it basically gives you a really quick 30-second to 45-second kind of course to run through and post your time to the leaderboards. There was a couple that I banged my controller on because I wasn't beating the developer, but I actually made sure to actually go and beat them at their own game. There is so much here in Ori 2, and you can definitely tell the developers at Moon Studios put their heart and souls into this game. And I honestly do think that Ori 2 is better in every single imaginable way than Ori 1. I honestly love this game, and I want to give it a 10 out of 10. In my opinion, it's a masterpiece. But, and this is a big but, I don't know if I can give it a 10 because I had some pretty bad issues while playing through the game for my review. Now, before I detail what I ran into in my game, I just want to make mention that there is a day 1 patch coming that they say will fix all of these issues, but I will say I ran into enough of these problems that it really hurts. I love this game, but I can't give it the score I think it deserves because I ran into performance problems and I just ran into so many different bugs. For starters, I had a performance issue a few times, and I actually counted here 6 or 7 times while playing through the game where Ori would just freeze in midair and stop what he was doing. So it wasn't enough for just that alone to make me dock a score. But then I ran into a save bug. 5 different times would I get about an hour into the game only to find out that the game didn't save, because one of the big changes to this game is that it auto-saves now. No longer do you have to manually save it yourself, and because of that, I lost so much time and so much progress that it frustrated me. So those performance issues tied with the save bug, which made me constantly have to redo parts of the game that I already completed, really dragged down the overall experience for me. So while I truly, in my heart of hearts, believe that Ori and the Will of the Wisps is a masterpiece and deserves a 10 out of 10, I just can't give it that score, so I'm gonna have to drop it down to a 9 out of 10. Now, with all those issues fixed in the patch, then obviously my score goes up to a 10, because it is truly something special, but I just ran into way too many problems to just overlook it and give the game a 10. But Moon Studios still should be proud of what they accomplished here. It's a masterpiece in the genre and one of my favorite games of this entire generation. I love Ori 2, and I hope you do as well. It's available later today on Xbox One, Steam, and Windows 10 for $30 or as part of Xbox Game Pass. Please play this game, as it truly is something special. Anyways, guys, that is the review. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, share this out on social media, and hit the notification bell if you always want to be notified when I drop new content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.